So before I go into wild time-lapse cutting mode, sad thing is I consider this a clean table. So shouldn't be a lot of the pieces of this color. Yeah, I thought not. So the trick is to lay these out and cut them out. And it's just a tracing. And I'm using a, excuse me, silver Sharpie. Now with this one, I have so much class. Sometimes I will lay out all the pieces just to get a, maximize my use of the available glass, particularly if I've got a lot of pieces to cut. And you want to maximize your material. So what I'm going to do, I don't normally do this way, I'm going to go ahead and cut this first piece just so you see that process. And then we'll switch to time lapse. So this piece is done. Just put a little dot in it. And so what I've done is just trace that piece out with the silver. Now what I'll be doing is cutting away the silver. And these curves are fairly gradual, so I don't have to sneak up on them at all. So glass cutter, just filled it with oil. Best to stand so you can get some nice weight. This needs to get out of my way. So does this initially. And you want to make one long, continuous cut. Hear that lovely creaky sound? That's proof that it's cutting. And then you take these special grousers and grab and break away. Whew, that's lovely. So I got that whole piece except for that last little bit. So my recycling guy loves me because these just get thrown into my recycling tin and away it goes later. Actually, they just went today, so away it goes in 2 weeks. So that last little bit should be cut. So there. Now, there's a little blip there, and that's what the grinder's for. So now we're going to cut again. And there's a little bit of work to do on the other side, too. So I'm going to start with this cut. Now, there's a little bit of a sharp turn there, so I'm going to have to sneak up on that later. Well, maybe not. See if it works. And what can happen is that cut could end up going off that way, particularly because there's a little bit of a grain in the glass there. Now this one, there's another tool. This one, which is specifically designed, it's been sitting so long. We have to put a little oil on that. So this, we're not using that one then. Sorry about that. Downside of letting tools sit for a while. But look at that, popped right out. Now I feel like everything else I could do on the grinder. I'm going to cut back and cut those other colors. So I'm just going to set that out of the way. And now we'll switch to the grinder. The grinder, there's a wet sponge on the back side here to help the heat come down. So we're just going to run along the edge to get these spots the way I want them. Now I forgot to get that little chunk off right there. Ah, come on. There, so that's a little bit better. Use the grouser to just break that piece off. And because of the texture of this glass, it's got soft spots and hard spots. So you have to be a little careful when you're pushing and grinding that you don't, when you hit one of those soft spots, it's going to go in more. And so remember how I said I don't want to see the silver line, so I'm grinding that away. You know, I could come in here and use the grousers and get closer. But that's not essential. And what happens when you break is you get a little sharp glass point there. So I want to file that out as well. So that's the piece grinded. So now we're back to the pattern. This is the piece we traced. And see how it's got a number on it, number 48. So this is 48 right here. So this piece lays in here. And as we move forward, we will maybe have to do some more shaping. So this is just the very first step. And the way I'm doing this is what's going to be called a foil and solder, not the leaded glass that's used in great big stained glass windows, but instead is a much simpler methodology. And, oops, sorry about that. Stop shaking. And so I'll be wrapping it in foil and then soldering, and the foil is what binds it all together. So we'll need to fit all these pieces together. This is, ultimately, this is I'm making a giant jigsaw. So that's just the first step, but I wanted you to see this part so that the time lapse makes a little more sense. All right, check back with you later. So I don't know if you caught that, but that long skinny piece that also broke in multiple pieces that was in the middle here, that wasn't the color. This number 47 actually goes right here, and it's labeled GG. It just got in the wrong envelope and I didn't notice it. So I lay that one aside just as well since it's broke. I'm also, now you see because this is a long process. Unlike my paintings, these take a very long time to do. Particularly this one because it's going to be multi-layers. I never did finish that thought about broken glass. So, you know, my quote-unquote day job, although it's actually a night job, is bartending, and inevitably you break glasses, and so I kind of joke that basically I break glass all day, and then I go to work and break more glass. So the next step, of course, will be to trace and cut the next color. And one little side note, like see this glass, see how textured it is? It's much smoother on this side than it is on that side. So I'm going to cut on this side. But you see it gives a lovely texture. And when you think about fish swimming underwater, this particular rolled texture is going to be really nice. So the next one I have is labeled MG. So like you see the MGs labeled there. And of course I always think of, MG sports cars. But so that'll be the next task, but I'm going to spare you that. So I'll probably work on this for a couple of days before I come back and shoot another video. So if you want to see when that drops and see the next step in this process of this piece, be sure to subscribe. Thumbs up always help. Love to know what you think. Love to know. I mean, this is so early that it's going to be hard for you to have an opinion. You'll notice I'm relatively new to glass. I think I've been doing it 4 or 5 years. But this multi-dimension will allow the viewer to actually have the fish swim. And there's going to be some other elements to this that I'll talk about as we get to them. So again, you can see all of my work at greigleach.com. There is a stained glass gallery, although most of those are more traditional pieces. And then in the figurative gallery, you'll find some other stained glass pieces, 4 of which will be included in my show at Cayo Gallery. So thanks for taking the time to look. I hope you enjoy what you saw. And again, thank you again. Thumbs up, subscribe. I'm sorry to be needy.